Live from Studio 133, you're listening to the Evening Sports Podcast, powered by Spreaker.com.
And welcome back into the Evening Sports Podcast, powered by Spreaker.com, live from Studio 133. I'm your host, Austin Sylvie, and this is ES Podcast episode 9-2, a continuation of the interviews we got at ACC Kickoff with the Coastal Division coaches and players. 9-1, you heard from Quentin Harris, the quarterback at Duke, Reggie Floyd, safety at Virginia Tech, Justin Fuente, the head coach at Virginia Tech, and Jeff Collins, the head coach at Georgia Tech. In this episode, we have 5 interviews. 4 players, 1 head coach. You're going to hear from Shaquille Quarterman, linebacker at Miami. Most likely, I would assume, a unanimous All-ACC linebacker, or at least preseason first-team All-ACC linebacker. You're going to hear from KJ Osborn, wide receiver at Miami, transfer from Buffalo. Bryce Perkins, a quarterback at Virginia, who is, in all likelihood, going to be the second quarterback who receives the most votes for All-ACC quarterback. Bryce Hall, a cornerback at Virginia, who is most likely a unanimous or close to a consensus pick for first-team All-ACC preseason. And Mack Brown, head coach, the new head coach at North Carolina, back in the Tar Heel State, back in the Tar Heel Carolina Blue for the first time since, I believe it was the early 90s. It's been a while. So we're going to hear from him. He had some interesting things to say for sure. But first things first, let's go hear from the 2 Miami players. We're going to hear from Shaquille Quarterman, and then we're going to hear from KJ Osborn. Here's Shaquille Quarterman, linebacker from Miami.
Defense is about adapting reflexes, and our defense is built in a way and we practice in a way that makes it easy for us to just play hard. You can fix a lot of mistakes with effort on our defense. You may be out of position, but if you fight hard to get back in position, you fight hard to get over that block, you fight hard to get your job done, it just works out for us. We just play a lot harder than other teams.
Shaq, the 3 of you guys coming back, it must feel like yesterday, that you all were freshmen. What's been the change in the process? What kind of a difference specifically can it make this year? And how are you different from 2 years ago, when you were here 2 years ago?
I think the biggest change is just maturity,
Right.
From babies as freshmen being thrown into the fire and just, trying to show people that we belong to be in Miami, to sophomore year, gradually getting the hang of it, to junior year, now we're the big dogs, we're the vets in the locker room. So now it's not just about us dominating, it's about making sure that everybody on that team dominates. Everybody knows they can do it, because sometimes that's all it takes. It takes is for one person or for an older head to take a young guy and say, listen, you're a special player and we need you. You never know how far that can go with a guy. That can turn a sophomore who just wants to play into a sophomore who's a force to be reckoned with. So that's our role this year.
Also, from what I've read, you guys are taking a bigger role in kind of policing, maybe that's not the right word, but taking care of the younger players and making sure everybody's in line and doing what they're supposed to. In what ways do you guys do that, the veterans, and why is it beneficial, I should say?
Well, we really just try to lead by example. And I don't really like the term policing, but there's a standard, and that's the one thing I've said since my freshman year, is that the standard that we have in Miami is what we live by. So if I'm an older guy, a vet, and I've been playing to the standard, practicing to the standard, working out to the standard, upholding the standard, I have to do the same thing. I have to, keep the freshmen, the sophomores, even the juniors. I have to hold them to the same standard, or I'm doing them a disservice. Why would I do something that I feel makes me better and not do it for them?
But do you guys, if somebody doesn't do something that maybe you think isn't right, do you take it kind of in your own hands, the players, for discipline?
It has to be a player-led team in any aspect. If the coaches have to, discipline somebody or get on to somebody about something that they just shouldn't have to. They just shouldn't have to.
So what are the types of things that you could do to help in that situation as an older player?
Take them to the side, a conversation,
You mentioned the close losses before. How do you turn those close losses into W's this year?
It comes down to focus. It really does. Late in those games where you need a stop or you need points, it comes down to execution. It comes down to your habits. And then in those situations, we just have to play harder. Football is not complicated at all. It's a children's game, and it's played by grown men. But the thing is, it's all about effort. It's all about who wants it more. And in those close games, one mistake was just one we couldn't make, and that led to us, earning the loss.
Now, Coach Diaz, obviously, you've been around him as a defensive coordinator. What insight do you have that makes you think he's ready to be a head coach now?
He's been ready to be a head coach. I said back after my freshman year, I knew that we had 2 head coaches on our staff because he's been ready, and he deserves everything that he's been rewarded. He's ready for all of it. So there's no thought. I don't think about if he's, I know he's ready. I know he's going to be on point.
You've had three head coaches?
No, just 2.
Just the 2. How? What's special about it? Just when you think of Manny, what makes you blessed that you have him? Coach Rick implemented the standard, but Coach Rick was on the offense side of the ball. Being with Diaz and spending the amount of time that I spent with him since, I say being a baby, but since me being a freshman and him telling me, I have to be 10 times harder on you because you have to be the guy. And that's a different conversation that most people don't have. Most people go into a program as a freshman and they have time. They have a vet that I was never able to be taken under somebody's wing. I was forced to be a guy from day one. But with Diaz, that conversation is something that helped me mature into the man that I am today and the player that I am today. I wouldn't have wanted it any other way, because he saw it in me before I saw it in myself, the same way that I see it in our freshmen and sophomores, that they don't see it in themselves. So he's just a great guy, man, and he lives everything that he implements. A lot of coaches around the country, they don't do the same.
Shaq, there's a lot of big name coaches now in the state of Florida. Coach Diaz was saying, there's always a battle for Florida talent. You being a Florida guy, what kind of separated Miami for you?
The tradition. Miami is the only school in Florida that has that level of tradition. You can say whatever you want to say, but you can't negate that fact. South Florida is different entirely. We breed talent. We breed talent.
Do you feel like the incoming freshmen and local talent you guys have now kind of felt the same way, and that's kind of what swayed them?
I think so. And especially when you see a guy like Coach Diaz and you see him in his interviews and you see him, making it possible for us to go into these communities and host camps, for everybody, for all ages of kids. It makes you, want to go to Miami. It's like, well, if he can take the time to do this for this community, for Dade County, for Broward County, West Palm, community service in all 3 counties, that's a special guy, because he doesn't have to do that. I don't know many head coaches that organize those things and go to those things and is at the forefront. It's different. It's just a whole different feel.
And then competition-wise, what's it like, when you have local guys go to, say, like a Florida State and y'all have that rivalry game?
You said, what is it like?
Yeah, playing against, local guys from Miami, but they went to Florida State or like a Florida.
Honestly, I don't too much think about it that much. When we play them, when we see them, we see them. They know where they should be at, though, and then they usually regret it, so that's on them.
You talk about tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Miami has been a team that's been known for swag, and has been have a shortage of that. What's the identity of this team this year? What do you guys bring into the field that's different from previous seasons?
From previous seasons, I think the mentality, and if you watch the previous seasons, the defense, the way that we play ball, swag is not what you wear. It's not a sleeve. It's not a type of glove, your high socks. Swag is winning and dominating. And it just happens that the way that we do it in Miami, people don't want Miami to win. So when we do, they get real mad about them, those type of things. I don't understand it, but so when we show up and show out, the year that we had that great year, and people were unhappy, very unhappy about that, and that's what it takes in Miami. You can't be soft-bodied and try to come to Miami because we have the whole world against us. Our fan base is Miami. You got other schools with big alumni. They got everything. We a private school, small school, and we able to show up all the time.
When you hear people say, when you talk about that you have the world against you, Paul Feinbaum, SEC reporter, said other than Clemson, that the rest of the ACC is a clown show. When you hear remarks like that, what is your reaction?
I don't really pay attention to the media. I obviously hear it, but I just kind of let it go in and out one. I don't have time for that.
Does that ever fuel, how you play?
Of course, because it's hard. It's hard that, when you put in the time, you play this game, you know what it's like to have to dominate on the field another person against their will, that happens it's one-on-ones in every play, and then you have the media, and not just him or whoever the case may be, but they talk as if they know what it feels like to do that type of thing, So to me, the credibility is not always authentic to me, so I don't listen to it.
Now, with Coach Diaz being a first-year head coach, is it too much to expect for him to come right away and lead you guys to a coastal title in his first year as head coach? Is it take a few years to build a program? Or?
Oh, we're not rebuilding. This is not a rebuild.
Coach Diaz, obviously, first-year head coach. He may need some time to build up the program, or not. Can he come in right away, first-year head coach?
I believe in him. If I didn't believe we could go further than we did last year, I wouldn't have came back. And that's as honest as I can tell you. That man is not rebuilding at all. He's fueling the program, but this is not no. We're trying to get better.
Shaquille, with this being your senior season, and we talked about the legacy of all the greats, Ray Lewis's and all that stuff. But what type of legacy do you want to leave in Miami?
My legacy, I just want, the alumni that we have now, the Ray Lewis, the John Vilma, DJ Williams. I just want, there's a poster in the linebacker room with all the great linebackers. I just want to belong. I want to be put up there because I deserve to be there. I did what I was supposed to do. I held up to the standard, and I held the chain. I didn't let it break while I was here. So if they put me on that list, I might cry, but that's all I need. That's my legacy right there.
You're going to rock the turnover chain a few times this year?
Of course. For sure.
Coach Diaz, you already know him as defense coordinator. How has he made an impact so far as the head coach? What's he in that new role?
The mentality of the defense that we have for the last 3 years, in which, we become one of the greatest, if not the greatest defense. Coming out of last year, it's going across the team now. That's the biggest difference. That mentality.
How can you tell?
When it comes to,
how can you tell it's coming across the whole team now? What do you see that makes you think the mentality is spread?
The competition difference. People love to compete now. They have to compete. It's about want to, like I told you previously. You have to want. The receiver like KJ, he wants to catch every ball, no matter who the DB is. Cam here, he wants to run hard. He wants to score. It's different. It's just we want it. We want it all. We want it all.
Well, Clemson's going to be the overwhelming favorite for the division. The first division is really a toss-up.
Mm-hmm.
What does that do for the team as far as heading into the fall practice, knowing that everybody looks to be about equal on paper?
I just think we're going to put our head down and work. Because even if somebody else was a favorite for our division, I don't think it wouldn't matter to me. That is all preseason talk and things that the media does. We're not the media. We have to play Saturdays. It's about, off of our merit is where we'll see who wins our division. So those preseason things, those are preseason things.
Manny said that obviously, he's familiar with you guys. A lot of the new coach comes in and there's something they don't know anybody. They have to wholesale change everything. But he pointed out, the program's in a better state than it was a few years ago when Mark came in. how different do you think you guys will look? I'm not just talking about maybe results, but I mean, do you feel like there's a lot of similarities in what you guys were before that you're just going to try to be better at, or is it going to be a completely different look?
Well, the mentality that he's put into the defense will stay the mentality. That doesn't need to change. I mean, statistically, you see that, you know. Now it's just stretching towards the offense. Now it's stretching towards our special teams. You know, now we have to have that standard across the whole plane. That's the only thing we're focused on. Once that happens, we're gonna be a well-oiled machine. It's gonna be great. And the job that he's doing in the recruiting is so fast. Just in the little bit of time that he's been the head coach, our recruiting classes are ridiculous. I'm jealous. I'm really jealous. I'm gonna get to play with some of these guys.
Are there changes in team policies, like a tangible one or two that stand out, like the way he operates with team setting? You guys set different team rules or anything?
No, I don't think the rules are that much different. You know, zero tolerance for drugs, zero tolerance for any, anything of that nature. That's always been.
A lot of things, though, even lesser severe stuff, a lot of things are still about the same on that front.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I think Miami and Florida have only played a handful of times in your lifetime, and yet this is one of the bigger rivalries for the school. What do you know about the rivalry, and what are you looking forward to most about opening against them?
The rivalry, all I know for sure is that, like you said, we don't play them that often like FSU. We play them every year. But with Florida, we play them a handful of times. And it's always bickering back and forth. But other than that, I don't too much like them. That's how a rivalry works for me, you know. The alumni come, and whenever I get a chance to speak to them, they say, "What's your record, since you've been here?" And at first I thought they meant, throughout all the season, they're talking about Florida State, and then all the chance you play Florida, did you win or you lose? So that's where it's at with me. For me to hold a chain, for me to get on that poster that I want to be on with John Vilma, Ray Lewis, all those guys, I have to be Florida. So that's how I feel about it.
So have you heard from the alums who have played Florida or the fans about how?
Oh, the fans, most definitely. I love our fans, because a lot of our fans are older people, So you can I walk into Winn-Dixie, buy my little taco season for Taco Tuesdays, and I run into a guy who's been a season ticket holder, brings his family, can recall every game, tells me, and I love hearing those stories because Miami's not a college town, it's a city. But at the same time, the love is there. Our fan base is unbelievable. You see them anywhere. So it's very important to me, man. It's very important. Every Saturday, home or away, I know that our fan base, they deserve it.
So did the guy when Dixie say you're going to be Florida and you have to be?
He said we have to. He didn't give me an option. It really wasn't a conversation. He spoke about everything he's done and he's seen, and the Santana Mosses. I was there when he did this in the first game, and Devin has to return versus Duke and stuff like that. So that's what it's about.
Can you tell us about your new punter, the big guy with all the tats? What's he like in person?
Lou is a funny guy. Lou's a little bit older, but I did not know Lou was that funny. But he works hard, and his leg looks like a cartoon leg. Like I can't wait to see him punt that thing, man. I really can't. But he's done a great job getting acclimated to Miami, because he came a long way, like passport long way, and he's doing his thing. He really is.
Coach was saying that this offseason has been about finding out which guys are all in and which guys are along for the ride. And has that maybe been part of the reason you said that things are different, it feels different, everybody wants it more? Are you finding, or have you seen that maybe there are potentially fewer passengers and more guys ready to do the driving?
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with them, because before the mentality on defense was different and the mentality on offense was different. Now that he's the head coach, we're gonna have one mentality. We're gonna have one team, one soul, one everything. So, and it's a lot of people who may not be able to get with that, as in any program. Coach Diaz isn't complicated. He wants to win, and he wants to win bad. And if you don't want to win as bad as him, then you have to find another program because he's not going to change. He's not going to change anything for a player, no matter if you're one of the best players, or not. So off of that, yeah, I could definitely agree with that. We've been working to find out who. We only need 22. As long as we got 22, we're fine. So, but we would like to have a lot more than that.
That was Shaquille Quarterman, linebacker at Miami. Obviously, he has some very interesting things to say, and I tweeted it out a couple days, or yesterday, I guess. I'm losing track of time. I tweeted it out yesterday when he said it, that he walked into that Winn-Dixie, get his taco seasoning for Taco Tuesday and all that, and ran into an older fan who was a season ticket holder for years, always takes his family and whatnot, and the guy told him, basically, you don't have a choice, beat Florida. I love that old school mentality with the rivalry games and the rivalry series in this country. And, obviously being in South Carolina, you get that a lot between Clemson and South Carolina. I don't know. I don't feel like it's quite as old school feel as it used to be, maybe. I mean, both teams want to beat each other, but the way each team's recruiting right now, especially Clemson, how they're recruiting out of state so well that you're bringing in these guys from like Maryland and Cali and Ohio and all these places that they don't care about South Carolina, Clemson. So it's not quite as player driven as it is. It's still fan driven a lot, but I don't know. I feel like that old school, like he mentioned, walking into that Winn, and maybe it's because he walked into a Winn-Dixie. I haven't seen one of those in years. I mean, I know Myrtle Beach used to have one when I grew up there, but I haven't seen a Winn-Dixie in years, so that might be why it feels a little bit different and old school. But regardless, rant long enough. Next up, we have KJ Osborn, the transfer from Buffalo wide receiver at Miami, of course. I got to open the interview with him. Just kind of asked if he was anxious about the season. How does he feel? Is he excited that he gets to play in the premier game, the first game of college football season? College football 150, all that kind of stuff. And he was a really intellectual, well-spoken young man that has goals outside of football, pursue his master's degree, all that. I'll let him tell you about that. But here's KJ Osborn, wide receiver at Miami.
How's it going, man?
How you doing?
Good. Anxious for the season to start?
What's that?
Anxious for the season to start?
Oh, yeah. I'm really anxious. I can't wait for it to start. I've been thinking about it every day since I got to Miami. I'm very excited.
How does it feel to you get to play in that first game of college football 150, all that stuff, and you're the singular game that weekend? Right. Are you excited for that aspect too?
Right. I'm really excited. Ever since the game was announced and they moved it up, it's great. That's what you want. Big time stage. Like I said, like when you come to a place like Miami with a big brand, that's the games you play in. And I tell my teammates all the time, this will be the biggest game I ever played in. So they're used to 70,000, 60,000. I'm not used to that, so I've never played in front of that. So like when I was telling them, my emotions will definitely be going. It'll be pretty cool, running out there, playing in front of all those fans and things like that. So it'll definitely be cool.
How much did it help, KJ, that you played there the last game you played, the spring game?
Oh, in Orlando?
Yeah.
It was really good. Just for visualization. It was really good. Just being there. I thought that was a really good idea. What we did with Coach. Staying in the same hotel. Going through, what we were going to do, in a couple months coming up, being in the stadium, getting a feel for it. So I thought that was really good. That was a very good idea.
Do you think it really calms down maybe the baby Canes, kind of the freshmen?
Probably not. Probably not. Cause, that stadium is going to be filled for me at least, it did a little bit just because that was my first time, really in front of the fans. But I mean, I can only imagine like when the whole stadium is filled up. You know how that feels. I mean, that's probably crazy. I feel like you can't really prepare for it.
Now, open up the floor as opposed to Podunk State. You really got to, you guys need to hit the ground running.
Right.
Some teams are better suited to hitting the ground running. Some teams may need to ease into the season.
Right.
Do you have a team this year that is capable of hitting the ground running like that?
Oh, absolutely, and that's what we train for. You know, to be going all the time. You know, one thing that our strength coach says is that we never change. We're not going to change. You know, whether it's first game, last game, we talk about it with our lifting schedule as far as when practice starts and how our lifting is going to change. It doesn't change. Like that's our standard. We're going to go 100%. And we're gonna hit it running. We know we have at stake, like you said. Like we're the only game on TV, and big time game, a rivalry, things like that. We don't have time to ease into it. You got to hit them running. So I feel like that's the mentality that we have.
KJ Manning,
you've talked a couple of times about just how fortunate you feel
right.
to be at Miami right now
right.
and putting on the U. Was there a moment that hit you that you were like, "This is Miami. This is what being a Hurricane is"? Can you share that with us?
I still get it. I mean, I got it right now. I really still like I always say, like when you go to a school, you don't think you're gonna transfer, and so it was like my first. Even when I first put out the tweet that I was going to Miami, I'm like, all right, this is really real. And when I got to Miami, even like the third and fourth week I was there, there would be times in the weight room where I'm just looking around. I'm like, I'm really at a different school, and I'm at a really big time school, and it's an honor to be here, and what they think of me and things like that. What I've been able to do so far, it is great. I think I count it as a fabulous blessing. Just being able to be at a big time school like that, like Miami, being able to put on the uniform like the first time I did, the fan base, the school, the people, the alumni. Like I said, I still get the feeling of it, so it's been great.
The alumni you mentioned, they're around all the time. Was there someone you met you were like, I cannot believe I am talking to Michael Irvin or whoever it may have been?
Michael Irvin was one of the guys. The first alumni I met was John Beeson. When I spoke to him, and then I can't remember like the order, but I remember at practice, spring practice, I seen Michael Irvin. I met Michael Irvin before. At IMG, they had the NFL Game Changers, like where the rookies, go and they'll train or they'll get some tips on NFL Network from a receiver. And I was in high school and I helped out on it. I just kind of caught some passes from Kurt Warner and I was able to watch. So I actually got a chance to meet him in high school. So then when I seen him at spring practice, I went up to him after and I was running like a slant and I had a question. I've been going around asking questions and I went up to him and spoke to him and he was open and it's like. When some really big time guys, they may not want to talk or it's kind of like but Mr. Irvin, he was really really open. He gave me his number. Hit him up anytime. If I need to talk or for advice, watching film or anything, and we spoke. That's when I was like, wow, I really met him. I met Santana Moss at the Paradise Camp, Alan Hearn. I was just able to go around and meet a lot of guys. And like when I tell people. The U brotherhood is really different. Like a lot of people say family, a lot of people say brotherhood, but this is something that is actually really different. And when you tell somebody that you play for the U, an alumni, even if they don't know you, they're gonna shake your hand like we're family. Like you let me know, if you need some advice, if you need help with anything, here's my number. They reach out to you like they've known you, like they played on the team with you. So and that's going back from. I don't know actually. Ed Reed. Ed Reed. There was a dinner. There was a dinner that we had, and I seen him, and I was like, oh. And then I was actually able to sit next to him. It was me, him, Shaq, Coach Diaz, and Mr. Sofer, the one that got the indoor. When I sat next to him, just being able to hear all their stories. What Coach Diaz talked about on the podium was completely right. When they talk about all the hard work, like when they actually what's like the formula, to being good at Miami, like not just the talent, but just the hard work. That's one of the things they always preach, especially John Beeson. And I talked to Michael Irvin, Santana Moss, Ed Reed, that all of them talked about extra work, how hard they worked, like what they did after practice, how they pushed each other, how they got each other better in the summer, what the standard was, back then and how I should keep it there now, things like that. So I guess that's a good answer.
What was your question for Mike?
It was a slant, and I asked him how Blades was playing me a certain way on the slant. And all of our corners, that's one thing I noticed about Miami. They're very, very smart. Trajan, and Blades, and DJ, you know, they all got different body styles too. That's how I know they have really good coaching, because they always play me different ways. A lot of guys in high school or in college, they just play you know, just man to man, or they just do their job. They're not worried. Some guys, they're not worried about like down the distance and things like that. But these guys are very smart. They know where their help is at, things like that. So it was a way that he was guarding me on the slant, and I think he was inside of me. I was trying to work inside, and then I had a question of whether how I should catch it, because some guys, you know, they say they don't want you to body catch it, or they want you to catch it out in front of your body. So I was kind of asking them, you know, what's a good way to work them. You know, I know it's going to be a bang bang play. So he was telling me, you know, sometimes you got to, you know, get in there, you got to body him up. You know, you got to know that the linebacker is coming. You got to take that shot. Other times you can, you know, just body him up, or, you know, get your hands out. But just talking football, but that was my question. Yeah.
KJ, the weather factor, what is the difference? I mean, obviously we know it's hot in Florida and it's cold in Buffalo, but the difference as far as playing, you still don't have a real sense of that yet, right? Because you were indoors.
Well, we've been outside all summer now.
Right.
In Buffalo, it was really windy. But I mean, like in our stadium, it was really windy. Even like we're in the summer and the fall. So especially, it didn't affect it too much, you know, catching the ball during the season. But at punt return, it affected me. Like, you know, that was like a really big impact. But now down here, in the spring, I had to get used to the heat a little bit. I thought I would be fine, but it's like Coach D. We were in the indoor, but sometimes they'll turn the air off. So I was able to get used to it, and I was fine. But then we got outside for our first scrimmage, and that's when it hit me, and I was like, oh yeah, it gets hot. So, you know, I was hydrating and things like that. You know, I was fine, but I was like, I just felt I could tell the difference. But
when was that? The first scrimmage?
The first spring scrimmage.
Oh, first spring one.
Yeah,
okay.
whenever that was. But but it was good though. I mean, it's fine. It's not like, you know, affecting me or anything like that. But I love playing in the heat. But it was just fun I really actually recognized it. I was like, oh yeah, it does get hot.
The other thing I want to ask you is Manny Diaz talked about bringing you here. Some of us were surprised because you're new, even though you're a grad transfer and not someone who's been around for a while.
Right.
He said because you really are the hardest worker that he's seen since you came. Did you feel kind of funny about being invited here? Did you talk to other kids about it? And what's your take on that?
I was really honored to be here. Like I said on the podium, or I don't know if I said on the podium, but when I got the text, I skimmed over it. So I think I was coming from the weight room, and I seen the word ACC, and I seen flight. And I put my phone down, you know, I was doing whatever. And I was like, I know that wasn't, you know, talking about the ACC Media Day. And I think I went back to the weight room for something, but I was thinking about it.
Right.
I was like, I wonder what that really was. And I went back and I looked at it, and I was like, wow, like, you know, I read the text a couple times, like, you know, that's really big. Like, I'm thinking the same way you guys are. Like, you know, I'm a grad transfer. I haven't played one down in a Miami uniform. So like, I was like, you know, that's really, you know, that's really a big thing for me. And I was really appreciative. And I texted Coach, and I thanked him, because I told him, you know, I didn't take that lightly. You know, I thought that was a big thing, you know, for me to come here in the fashion that I did, like a grad transfer. I haven't you know, played yet, and for him to, you know, think of me like that, and you know, the people in the building to think that highly of me, to be able to come here and represent a university like this, it was really an honor. So I personally thanked him. So I think it's a really big thing.
You don't think any other kids were upset about that, do you?
Oh, I don't know. I doubt it. Okay. We've talked. I mean, I've talked to them, and, you know, they've asked me questions about, you know, when we're leaving and things like that. But I mean, like, we're not. It's a really unselfish team. We just care about winning.
Great. Thank you.
There's a difference between Buffalo and Miami, obviously. When you went through the transfer process, was there self-confidence in you and mentality in you that, you know, you thought you could end up at a place like Miami and then the caliber program of Miami, or did this whole process of events kind of even go beyond your expectations?
It did go a little bit beyond my expectations. And, you know, one of the things about the transfer portal, you know, like, it's a risk, and that's what I talked about with Coach Ianello, my receiver coach at Buffalo. It is a risk. You know, And I was from the Mack, and the Mack it doesn't get as much media. It's an ACC or something like that. So I didn't really know, how like good I was. I'm not trying to say, like I say that as humbly as possible, but like I didn't know. So I'm like, I didn't know I can play at Miami. Like, so when I was talking to my I call him my uncle. He's my receiver coach at IMG, E.G. Green, like a role model to me. So I was talking to him, and he was like, the move, you don't want to make a lateral move, you need to go up. So he's talking about he played at Florida State. He's like a Florida State, Miami, a USC. So when he was saying those names, I was like, whoa. I was like, okay. So then I was kind of talking to like some like TCU, like Syracuse and Rutgers, West Virginia. They're obviously great universities, but they're not Florida State or Miami, something like that. And then so like when the Miami thing started to take off, I was like, that's where I kind of gained confidence. And talking to some of my other guys, I can play there. Like I haven't played, like the competition, I guess, at this level yet or whatever, but I kind of got that self-confidence, like, yeah, I can play with anybody in the country.
I think you answered my question about going to IMG. You said your uncle was the coach there?
Oh, he's not my uncle. His name is E.G. Green, Ernie Green. They called him Ernie Green, but E.G. Green, he played receiver at Florida State. He had played with Coach Dugans, and that's how I originally got the Miami connection. He was my receiver coach at IMG.
I thought you said something about an uncle.
Yeah, I'm saying like we got so close. I just call him like he's like an uncle to me. He's like he's a role model. In Michigan, when I played the game of football, I was just a high school kid out there, just playing off athleticism. I got to IMG, and he really taught me, the real fundamentals in the game of wide receiver, and with stances and releases and stacking a defender, and I'm not out there just running past people just off athleticism. And then we also connected off the field. He's a great guy, great father. I call him now. When we talk about church, we can talk about life, anything. That's what I call him. He's like an uncle to me, a role model.
Yeah, you mentioned how tough it was to leave Buffalo. For the teammates. What about your Ypsilanti friends?
It's always tough to leave friends, but that was a much easier decision. A lot of my close friends were basketball guys, so I wasn't with them like all the times at certain parts because like I was running indoor track and they were playing basketball, and at the time it wasn't like I wasn't getting like a lot of exposure, and so like when you go to IMG, it's like, it's hard to say no to that. Like, have you ever been there?
No.
It's like it's amazing. It's like you're in college when you're in high school, and the schedule, and it prepares you, for the college level. I can really say that IMG is like really one of the best things that has happened. I wouldn't even be at Miami if it wasn't for IMG, because that's how I, got those connections and things like that. But it was definitely it was easier to go from my Lincoln school to IMG than
and some people are critical of kids transferring. That's just the way the world is. You had to look out to see where your best opportunity was. Or?
Yeah, definitely. And that's one thing I had to deal with or contemplate. Coming from Buffalo to here, I kind of had to just do what was best for me. As much as I love my old teammates there, I love my old coaches. We had a really good relationship. I miss those guys, but I feel like this was the best move for me. And I answered the question in the other room, like what's a rule that you can change, and I feel like it was like guys being able to play like right away. So I feel like coaches can go and go play and go coach somewhere like right away, but if a player does it for his situation that he has to sit out or something like that, but a coach can do it. So I feel like I just had to do like the best thing for me, because if it was flipped, a coach would tell me the same thing. He would do the best thing for him. So I feel like I had to do the best thing for me.
And you obviously have a personality that fit in real well with people. Where does that come from?
I would say my parents. Just how I was raised. My mom, I've been raised in growing up in church. She's, my character. My mom has been on me even when I'm talking on the phone with her now. Like her thing right now is, she asks me something, I say yeah, and she says yes. And I'm like, okay, mom. I'm like, okay. So she really keeps me going. My dad, both very hardworking people. And also I know like that side. In high school I took a video news production class where I like interviewed people. So like I one of my goals were like past goals, like to be like a commentator. So like I know like like the how an interview is supposed to go, like what how you make your money, based off what I say, like extended answers or things like, not giving you like one word answer and stuff like that. So I understand a lot, so I guess that's going to be too. But I like this type of stuff. Like this stuff is cool.
Don't worry, Money Bates is from your high school.
Yes, yeah. Money Bates, yeah. Really good kid.
Go ahead. Season openers are always exciting, but when you're opening up against your rival, does that kind of take the excitement to a whole another level?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And plus the stage that it's on, there's nobody else playing. Like it's just us. We playing a week early, and then like the fans, obviously, all the trash talk and things like that. Like I said, I come from another school, so I kind of got like joined into the rivalry. So then like you get all the fans, all the trash talk and things like that. So it really gets you amped up for the game. It's a rivalry, so like everything you would think it is, and so definitely it gets you more amped up and ready to play and just really excited.
What do you make of the whole ACC versus SEC thing? I mean, fans get really into it.
Right.
The players think about it the kind of same way you want to represent for your conference, or just what do you make of that?
I guess that would be new to me because I'm new to it. So, in the Mack we play. I guess so. I guess you could say that like players. So, when we were in the Mack, bowl game, you would cheer for like your Mack school against somebody else. So I feel like that, and I know like at these schools, there's a fight like which conference is the best conference and things like that. But personally, I don't really worry about that stuff. I just go out there and play. I leave that stuff to the fans to talk about, really.
Yeah, like you said, you're new to the conference, but I don't know if you heard recently Paul Heimbaum said the rest of the ACC besides Clemson, he called it a clown show.
Really?
What would your response to that be? Just that he thinks it's Clemson and everybody else.
Oh, I can't control what he thinks. Like I said, I can just go out there and play. He has a job to do, so that's how he make his money. That's what he does. But my job is to be a good leader, be a good student, be a good son, be a good football player, things like that. So I can only control what I can control. So I don't have no hard feelings for him. That's how he can have an opinion. So the only thing I can go out there and do is play football. So
thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Hey, and one of your former teammates is in Florida too, Anthony Johnson, taking a chance with Tampa Bay.
Right.
What kind of player do you think he can be in the NFL? I talked to him a little bit at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
And, he was actually kind of that number one wide receiver last year for me. The way he plays, but not getting drafted. But
right. I just talked to him last night. He's probably about 30 minutes away right now. I think he's a tremendous talent. He's really fast, really good hands, runs really good routes. I feel like, obviously we were really upset he didn't get drafted, but I feel like AJ is the type of guy that he's going to go in. He's not a big talker. He's going to go in, and same thing like how he came in Buffalo. He's not a big talker. He's just going to come in, he's going to do his work, and then you'll see, then the talk will come up. He's not a big talker, but if he continues to work hard, work on his craft, learn from, I know he told me that they have some veteran receivers there. I feel like he can be really good, especially along with special teams. I know he was talking to me about, being a gunner, so he understands that, the whole aspect of it, not just being a receiver, but, bringing weapons to the team and, also being a special teams player.
And what are some of, your individual goals for this season? What do you want to prepare for just yourself or your future after Miami, after college?
Right. First, I would say probably my master's to continue to when I leave Miami, I'll probably have 2 classes left. So continue to do well at that. On the field, just continue to be sharp on my routes. Can continue to play at a fast pace. I take a lot of pride in yak yards. And being a weapon, I can play inside, I can play outside. You're a guy that you can depend on me in third down. Really good hands. Being physical at the line of scrimmage, being a physical blocker. I guess, my coach, Coach Stubbs, always tell me, one of the best compliments as a receiver is when they tell you you're a complete receiver. So that's one thing, and that's all I want to be able to check all the boxes. Like I said, good route runner, good blocker, good speed, good body control, ball skills, all those type of things. So I just continue to work, in the offseason, be able to display those during the season to help my team win. That's the ultimate goal, really, just to win.
Thanks, man.
That was Miami wide receiver KJ Osborn. Obviously, he was one of my favorite interviews of the week, just because he even mentioned it in the interview that he took journalism classes, broadcast classes, things like that, to where he understands how the media do their job and what they need to be able to do their job in interviews, open, extended answers, not yeses or nos. And it is up to the media also to ask the right questions. Don't ask a yes or no question. That's number one thing I learned. So that's why I really enjoyed talking to him, hearing from him, because he was not afraid to do what I do, and that's ramble on and actually answer questions. But next we're going to hear from Bryce Perkins, quarterback at Virginia.
Was starting to creep in my mind a little bit, not knowing that I was going to get back to a high level of competition in Power 5 again. And it was not until late October, towards the end, like near Halloween, is when the first opportunity, rose. And that may not seem as late, but like at Arizona Western, guys were getting, offers like this and that, because we were such a, high profile team that I started to think that maybe, football wasn't going to be option for me at the highest level. So I was just taking it game by game. But if anybody who was in a similar position, if I had to tell anybody, just keep to what you've been doing, and if you can do more to be better, do more. And there's always more you can do to become a better player. And after that, where the chips fall, if you've done all you can do to be where you're at, and then you don't get what you want, if you take it, just work harder and have something to prove. So that chip on the shoulder means a lot.
How cool was it being on SportsCenter today?
I didn't know I was on SportsCenter today.
That's what they told us.
Oh shoot! Oh yeah, I had no idea. It's cool. What was the context of it?
In there. I guess.
Oh, in there? Oh yeah. It's cool. I mean, as a little kid, and we always dream about, being on TV, and now I'm not as glamorizing it now, more so than I was when I was a little kid, just because. There's a lot of things. That's one thing, but going out there and playing is a whole separate thing. So, it's definitely cool. I'm glad you showed me.
This show was on your prowess as a cornhole player.
On SportsCenter? Hey, if they need a national champion tournament, me and B Hall, we can definitely give somebody a run for their money. Yeah.
They actually have one of those.
Yeah, we were definitely in there. We were definitely one of the top cornhole players I've seen in a minute. Yeah.
They actually have one of those.
Yeah, we were definitely in there. We were definitely one of the top cornhole players I've seen in a minute.
And how long have you been playing that for years?
No. No, here and there.
Have you ever played it before?
Yeah, I have, like here and there. Maybe like once or twice in the year, maybe if I see it at a restaurant. Like we have an outside restaurant, corner drop off at home that has cornhole that here and there we'll play, but just a little bit. But this is the most games I've played in one.
What, 2 hours?
Yeah, I didn't know until it got dark, and I was like, man, I'm getting sleepy. But we couldn't get off because we were still winning, and the winner stays on. So
you mentioned earlier, talking about the doubt you had when you were at junior college. When would you say that part of it, from a mental hurdle standpoint, was behind you? Like when you're at the point where you don't think about it now, but when did you finally get over the hump?
Man, I think when Coach Beck called me, he was the first Power 5, school to call me and kind of, express his interest. And after that, was a sigh of relief, just because I knew that I was heading in the right direction, and my gameplay was, turning heads, and this potentially set me up to be back at the highest level. So once Coach Beck called me and expressed his interest, that's when I knew that I said, okay, I can relax now, still play, but I don't have to have all this, thoughts racing and getting on social media trying to check, if a coach followed me, after a game, trying to see if I done good enough, or, if I had to do more, if I should have done more, or thinking about this play and that play, thinking about who was out there watching. And after that allowed me to play better. and allowed me to just play freely and have more fun with it.
What'd you know about Virginia when he reached out?
Nothing. Nothing. But yeah, I didn't know anything.
Played against them.
Yeah, I knew my brother played against them, and I knew the helmets when they played him were cool. So that's one thing. Another thing is I knew Tiki and Ronde Barber came here. I knew that before because I read a book about them when I was a kid. It was a picture book. And three, another quarterback from Arizona went to Virginia, and I knew that Connor Brewer. And so I trained with him on his transition from, I think, NAU to Virginia, and he was kind of telling me about it. So not a lot of in-depth, but at least three things.
Well, what questions do you have then? I mean,
oh man, the type of because Coach kind of called me and they were transitioning, and I knew they were at BYU, so the offensive scheme kind of more in depth when I got here. The environment and being from Arizona, all coming to Virginia, we don't see a lot of green where I'm from, and there's a lot, and then the weather was definitely questions I had, and I definitely researched. Me and my parents researched this, just about everything, just the environment, the school itself, being kind of a more historic, school than I've come from, just how everything was, brought to be. And when we got here on our visit, one of the recruiting guys, Bob, took us around and kind of showed us like landmarks in the school itself, which was pretty cool. So
the Broncos are already talking about the Virginia Tech. Well, I asked you about the Virginia Tech game. What do you think about the emphasis that's placed on the game, and how important is it going to be for you this year?
Oh man, the emphasis is extreme. I mean, I think more so than last year for me personally, because I haven't really had any experience with Virginia Tech until that game, and then now, after a year, and after losing how we lost, it still stings a little bit. I mean, and even last year, it took me a while to get over that, even at school, and I'm not completely over it when we talk about it. I still do, that little pit in my stomach.
On a path to score the winning touchdown.
Yeah, and that's what, as a player and as a competitor, it may not always be like this, but when that happened, I looked at myself like I lost the game for the team, which, is the last play that lost the game, and I really took it to heart because it was like, man, it don't matter what you did leading up to that point, the last play, if it was on you, and then just replaying all the things that could have went, yeah, all the things that could have happened, just just replaying it, and it was making me sick.
You got to be crazy mentally strong to get past that.
Yeah, I mean, and I was like I said, I mean, it took a while. I mean,
but then look what you did in the Belt Bowl.
Yeah, because
it didn't take that long.
So it turned into like the 5 stages of grief. What I'm saying? So like after I was in denial, I was angry. I was sad. And after that, leading up to the game, it was the anger that kind of made me want to get back out there and just whatever happened, just leave everything else behind and just focus on that game, which I think we all did that, and that's what allowed us to go out there and win in the fashion that we did. So now transitioning to this year, we had to keep that same anger, but apply it to every game and not wait for a loss for it to be reenacted again. So
you said you thought about the play. I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried. What happened on that against Virginia Tech? It was like a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Do you even remember? Was it blurred?
Oh yeah, I remember everything just perfectly.
What happened? Like, how did that?
So I mean, it was a RPO, run pass, tight end in the flat. So read the defender. So we're in pistol. I didn't jump back far enough to pull it. So when I kind of stayed on the running back's track. So when I jumped back and then I tried to pull it, I was too close to the running back. So I hit him, and then while I was trying to pull and throw, and the ball came out, and then I tried to reach for it, then I got hit, and then so they got it. That's how she wrote.
What do you make of the expectations for this year? They're the highest they've been in over a decade. And do you embrace that? And what makes you believe that you can build on last year's success?
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter anybody else's expectation because they're not higher than ours. I mean, we really look at every game and just let's say, like, why not? Like, why should we lose this game? You know, are they that much? You know, so our expectations for ourselves is great. Is greater than, you know, a lot of outside expectations, and they may match it. And I think as a player and as a team, you know, when you expect more of yourself than other people, then that's when you start performing the best. So, I mean, and I take that to heart too. I'm my biggest critic. And that's going to allow us to train and practice the way we need to practice. If we truly believe that, you know, we're the best team in the Coastal and we truly believe that we can win the ACC championship, then we're going to attack every day and practice in summer workouts like we deserve, you know, and we need and we have to win the Coastal. So, I mean, this summer has been intense as far as everybody trying to get bigger, faster, and stronger. And we're going to see when camp rolls around how many guys, you know, are on the board of winning this championship.
That was Virginia quarterback Bryce Perkins talking with the media there at ACC Kickoff. We have 2 interviews left we're going to get to in this episode. And next is Bryce Hall, who was the cornerback who is the cornerback at Virginia. And most likely, I believe he was first-team All-ACC last season. And I'm fairly confident he'll be a first-team All-ACC player preseason this year as well. Just crazy talented. He had 22 pass deflections last year, 24 passes defensed. I think he's had 40 in his whole career. And I put out an article on eveningsportspage.com earlier today that you can go check out. It's called Meet Elite. Bryce Hall is about more than football, and Meet Elite is just kind of a series, if you will, type title that I'm gonna be doing a couple articles about with players that I interviewed at or got the chance to get audio and interview at ACC Kickoff and so on and so forth. And this is the first one, so you can go read about him. And it just kind of talks about and highlights some of the things he said about what he wants his legacy at Virginia to be. And you're going to hear it in this interview. And, you know, what he really wants to be remembered for and things like that. And it's really insightful. It's raw. It's honest. And he's a very humble, soft-spoken kid. And it's just really interesting to hear some of the things he says and the way he thinks and the way he went about making the decision to return for his senior year and things like that. So you're really going to enjoy listening to him, I think. And if you don't want to listen to it, then, or even if you do this anyways, go check out the article at eveningsportspage.com. It should be one of the first ones you see. It's called, again, Meet Elite. Bryce Hall is about more than football. Go check it out, eveningsportspage.com. Here's Bryce Hall, cornerback for Virginia.
I think more so than maybe the accolades or the awards I give that I will get, I would more so want to be remembered with just how I impacted the people that were here and just, you know, was really somebody that, you know, really helped people and not just was focused as a football player, but he impacted the community and made it a better place while he was there. And as well, you know, raised the standard, improved people to be the best version of themselves while they were here.
And how much confidence going into this season does the men's basketball team give you? You know, you see them win the national championship,
yeah,
and you know, football has been growing. What's that next step for you guys? What type of motivation did that give you guys, especially going into the season?
Yeah, I think just seeing all that they accomplished, just overcoming the adversity where they fell, you know, in the first round and coming back and winning a national championship. And that's inspiring to watch this story and the resiliency that they showed each and every game, and the ones where they had to come back, you know, it looked like they were down. You know, that's just inspiring and encouraging, you know. And so when you see that, you know, it gives you hope. And as to whatever you want to accomplish, is possible. And just knowing some of those guys and, having a chance to meet Coach Bennett and all he represented, it was just encouraging, and it really, motivates you.
Bryce, in high school, you mostly played wide receiver. When did you know you were going to switch to corner, and what were your thoughts on that?
When Coach Howell called me when I was, this was during basketball season, and he told me he was thinking about he's going to switch me over to corner, or not corner, to safety originally. And then he came to my basketball game, or I think it was like he had came to my basketball game and saw I was able to move laterally. I was, as I was defending players, and I think that's where he kind of got over to switch me to corner. And I don't really know, like before that, what had gone into it, but they had asked me a question, when on my official visit, which would you rather play? And I was just like, either position. And I think there was a need there at the time for defensive back, and I'm so glad that they made that switch. And I think, the transition from being wide receiver has helped me make that transition to be able to play the ball good and as a DB.
And there were a couple other guys in your class that didn't play much defense in high school, Nick Grant, Chris Moore. What do you remember about those early morning sessions where you three were together first getting down those techniques for defense?
It was funny because we were so raw, just as far as like our fundamentals and technique, and so we really had to just like stumble into it. I didn't really know what I was doing because I never played defense for real, and so I was just kind of taking in whatever the Coach Howard was saying. I was just trying to apply that in every aspect. And so with that being said, I was just kind of like watching and trying to figure out what the best to do at that position. And so just kind of studying, looking, failing a bunch of times, getting roasted multiple times in practice. I started to find my way slowly.
What did you think when they invited you to come down to this? I didn't surprise any of us that they would ask you as one of the team leaders, but what did you think when they roasted to you?
ACC Media Day?
Yeah.
I was just really, humbled that they chose me, and it was cool. I saw, Chris Peace and Alameda, they had this cool experience last year, and so I thought it was cool how they just had selected me of all people to be able to represent UVA. So I don't take it lightly, and so I try and represent us the best that I can.
Bryce, how much when you look back to the start of your career 4 years ago and the state of the program then, and then you look at it now, how much have expectations both internally and externally changed over that time?
Just as far as...
Just in terms of what's expected of this program in terms of wins and losses? Yeah.
That's a good question. I think internally, like even before everybody else had put on expectations, we, as a program, we had high expectations for ourselves, even when nobody else really believed in us. And so we've kept that same expectation, that same work ethic. And so I think all this really changes. I think our works and our hard work is starting to be manifested and starting to pay off, and so people are seeing that, taking a little notice to that, and so I think all that's really kind of changed is just the spotlight has been more so on us in different aspects, and so I think we've always had this kind of expectation and motivation to be all that we could be, and so I think that's the only difference. In each year we're trying to improve and get better.
Hey Bryce, beating Virginia Tech was such a driving motivation for you guys last year.
Yeah.
Does it remain a cornerstone of this team's attitude, or do you try not to look too far ahead?
I think you always have that as a cornerstone as far as, beating your rival. And so I think that is, something we're always going to have. There's always going to be a focus that we want to accomplish. And so with that being said, you're not looking ahead from anybody. So you have that in mind. And obviously when that time comes, you treat that opportunity, and take that opportunity, and you want to be as prepared as possible. But at the same time, it's part of like not looking too far ahead, because then you can lose sight of what's in front of you.
Bryce, you spoke about your decision to come back to Virginia this season and how it's been beneficial already. But if you can take us back to the time when you were making that decision, what was the determining factor to get you to come back in 2019 to Virginia?
Well, I had talked to, and the thing is, I had talked to, a couple people, and, I had doing some real deep thinking, but, obviously I wanted to, be sure of the decision, and I had to pray on it, and get some wisdom and just get real insight on what I wanted to do, and I felt like in my heart that, God was telling me come back because there's more I want to develop in you. There's more I think you have to share and help others with, and before kind of seeing that next stage and preparing you more. And it's not, I think the biggest thing that I was looking to prepare me on was not as much as like my play in like the field, but more so mentally as far as my character as being a leader, being more vocal, being more someone who's going to speak up and help others, and sharing the knowledge and understanding that I have through life and just through the game of football with other people. And so it's stretching me to be outside my comfort zone, because usually I'm, lead by example, don't really say too much, but now it's more, okay, you have to communicate more, you have to be more vocal and help people. And so I think that's a part of my progression as a man. And so that's been something that's been huge for me this off season. I'm learning, and by no means am I perfect, but I'm trying to progress towards that.
Bryce, you look at the energy this team had last year, just jumping up and down on the sidelines. You see like Coach Atwhy on Twitter and stuff, and just kind of energy this program has. It seems like it's really been amped up coming into the season. Is that just going along with the expectations, or where does that extra like bump come from?
Yeah, I think that's at the core of who we are as a program, and what our culture is all about. We're all about, we believe everybody is somebody, and so our culture and just who we are and what we're trying to keep instilling is, that fourth side. Everybody matters. If you're on the sideline and you're not necessarily in the play, you do have an important role, and that's to cheer on your teammates. And we're just trying to build that camaraderie and brotherhood. And the more things we do, more hard things we do, the closer we get. And so I think that's at the core of what we always want to try and establish here at UVA.
What was the result of that Corn Bowl match last night? Who were the teams, and were there multiple wins for your team? Or
So it was me, and obviously it was me and Perkins. And it started out as just, it was just me and him. We were just shooting it, kind of.
Had you had any background in
cornhole?
Yeah.
You play it every once in a while at like cookouts or just kind of like a gathering. But then people started stepping up, just started challenging us, and we just got hot, and we started getting on a little streak. And then next thing led to another. Almost 2.5 hours later, we had ran through 4 or 5 different teams, so we were just having fun with it. And the funny thing is, the last game of cornhole, we were up big, and they almost came back and beat us, so we had to finish it off, and it was an exciting win to end the night.
Bryce, you've had the same position coach now for 4 years. This whole coaching staff is basically the same that it was in the Broncos' first year. Is that stability a positive for you, think, hearing the same voice?
Absolutely.
Year after year with Coach Howell?
Absolutely. And they know what the standard is. They're enforcing it, and you're getting the same thing. And so the message is consistent, and I think you trust them because they've been in a program that's had a lot of success and developed that. And so you can trust that what they're saying is true and what they believe because they've been preaching it since they got here.
How have you seen your head coach change over these 4 years, or has he changed?
Yeah, I think at the core of who he is, he's the same, and I love that about him because he is, who he is, and he's an awesome man. I think that as a coach, I've seen him adapt and be able to progress through, understanding, being more self-aware and understanding who he's playing with and the guys who are on the team, and then developing a game plan or, using that to, that understanding to put us in the best position to use our strengths. And I think that's something he's done a really good job of over the years.
As you have earned his trust as the players, have you seen him kind of delegate more to the players and let you guys, him have the confidence that you're going to do things the right way and he doesn't have to babysit you maybe?
Yeah. I think that, and that comes with, like, since we've been in the program a while and now that we know the standard and the way things are supposed to be and go, there is more, a little bit more autonomy in how we're able to lead now from that position of understanding and knowing what it's like to taste a little bit of success and just continue to progress and grow on that.
Bryce, cornerbacks are generally some of the most competitive players on the football field, and I'll be honest, making the preseason All-ACC team, it was very challenging to settle on which cornerbacks to pick. Where do you see yourself in the landscape of ACC cornerbacks?
Yeah, I think that's for you guys to decide and wrestle over. I try not to. I really try not to compare myself to anybody else. I'm just trying to be the best that I can be, and wherever people see that they feel is who's better or whatever, I'll let them make that decision. But that's, I just try and be the best that I can be and control what I can control, and then I'll let the results fall where they may.
Now, watching you play last year, you can tell you're a very competitive guy on the field, and I really enjoyed watching the Kelvin Harmon matchup. Is there a particular receiver that you're looking forward to facing this year? Every matchup is different, and I'm excited to go up against just each matchup because there's no slouch out. There's no slouch when you line up against them, whether it's the team, whatever team you're playing against. I'm not really sure, because everybody has a dude in the league that can take the top off of the defense and scare you at any moment. So it's just I don't really have any particular matchup in mind as far as who particularly am I excited going this. I know everybody has some very elite receivers at each team, so there's no real one in particular I have in mind. Coach Mendenhall mentioned that you have your own space in the facility to prepare and watch film and stuff. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So it's our film guy, his name is Luke, and there's a little comfy spot that he has, and so I've kind of plot myself down in his office because they have there's a kind of table like this, but it's longer, and they have comfy chairs in it, and so they have TVs in the office, and it's a new thing they have set up because it's they just built it last year. They have this little system, and I just, it's very comfortable. There's a little, I don't even know what to call it, but this monitor, and you can just have a film set up at a click of a button. So I would have my own space, and I just tap it, and it's the TV comes on, it's connected to the computer, get the clicker going, just, it's a chill spot, and I've just kind of been planting myself in there for a while.
Bryce, well, first of all, thank you. It's good to see one of my own here, Mark Miller, East Pennsboro.
Hey.
Good to see one of the Bishop McDevitt Crusaders here.
Yes, sir.
Legendary. My fraternity brother actually was the offensive lineman for Ricky Waters.
Really?
Absolutely.
Wow. I went to Ricky Waters camp when I first got here, or when I first got to Pennsylvania. That was the first camp I ever went to. Ricky Waters football camp. It was awesome.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Well, Ricky's still in the area, I think.
Oh, really? Is he?
I think so, yeah. Okay. I'm not sure if he's still running his camp. I haven't had a chance to look. But what I wanted to ask is, with Clemson winning the national championship in football and Virginia winning the national championship in men's basketball, does that championship mentality, does that influence the team coming into the season in terms of, giving you more motivation and knowing what you got to do to get to the championship level?
Yeah, I think when you see what they were able to accomplish and noted, and just knowing some of the players on that team and just following them closely and all the ups and downs they went through, I think it definitely inspires you and gives you motivation, to be able to, see something great like that accomplished, even though they had gone through so many difficult times and stretches. I think that does inspire you, and after talking with them and knowing who they are, it gives you encouragement and motivation to do the same.
there's no overwhelming favorite in this division. Like there is in the Atlantic with Clemson being the overwhelming favorite. How does that affect the team as far as practice-wise coming into the season?
Well,
knowing that it's so wide open.
Yeah, well, I think anytime you're in a league, your expectation, your hope is to win it, and so I think we have high expectations, and we saw what we're capable of doing, and so there is, an urgency and motivation to try and reach that level and trying to maintain those goals.
The Broncos was saying that nothing's changed in his feelings about Virginia Tech. How do you view the desire or whatever to end the streak against Virginia Tech?
Yeah, well, certainly they're our rival, and we want to beat them, and that is a game that is more hyped up than the other ones, and so I think the motivation is to win and beat them, absolutely. And so
you don't think you put too much pressure on that?
As far as
leading up to the game. I mean, the talk for weeks is about ending that streak, and you think it's talked about too much or talked about the right amount or what?
Well, I'm not really sure how much it's talked about, amongst the media and stuff like that, but obviously they're always, I feel like if you're in a rivalry game, it's like that, you have that in mind. I know for me personally, my mindset is, that's what you always want to win that matchup, but at the same time, you can't look too far ahead, because what's in front of you is going to get overlooked and you can slip up. So we know that matchup's coming and there's an emphasis there, but until that day comes, we're in the present moment, and so I think that's the best you can do.
How about the game last year? It looked like you had that one on a couple of occasions.
Yeah, we didn't finish. Everybody could see that.
That was Virginia cornerback Bryce Hall talking with the media, and obviously a big point of emphasis from a lot of people talking to him was the Virginia Tech game, and that I remember watching that game, and I couldn't believe Virginia Tech found a way to win. But they do get Virginia Tech back in Charlottesville this year, so they do have a great chance with the team they have. Now, they have lost some pieces, but both teams have. So I think they have a great chance. They've got the better coach, in my mind, right now, and they have the better quarterback, in my mind. So, and they have two really good, outstanding defensive players that I can think of, and of course, one being Bryce Hall, the other being Charles Snowden, the linebacker. So I think they have some pieces to work with, but they've got to stay healthy, and things have to fall into place. But I really enjoy listening to Bryce Hall. I think he's a really humble, young man that understands what he wants to accomplish before he leaves Virginia, and I think it's deeper than football, which is something I love to hear these players talk about. The fact that it's not all football for them, that football is almost just this conduit that they can work through, and it gives them a platform to do greater things off the field. So I really enjoyed listening to that. And again, like I said at the beginning, before the interview, that I have an article out on him on eveningsportspage.com. It's called Meet Elite. Bryce Hall is about more than football. So go check that out. It kind of highlights some of the points he made in there and just kind of breaks down his mindset for the 2019 season. Last but not least, interview with a new he is the new head coach, but he's been here before. You know him, North Carolina head coach Mack Brown. Spoke with the media, of course, at ACC kickoff, and had some really interesting things to say. So I'm going to let you hear from him, Mack Brown.
Questions?
I'll start.
Answers?
When Coach Swinney sent his staff out to Texas so many years ago, did you see anything in him that would lead you to believe he or any of those guys would ever have this kind of success? And then part two of that would be, are you looking forward to hosting them, in one of your first home games on September 28th?
Yeah. Number one, two of the most important people in Dabo's life, Coach Stallings and Woodrow McCorvey, are two of my best friends. and two people that I admire more than anybody else. So the first thing you got to do is surround yourself with really good people. That's two of the best. I mean, Coach Stallings is tough and leads him and talks to him about what to do and what not to do. Woodrow just runs everything. He's just kind of behind the scenes, and he's got this personality, and Dabo and I are like this, and so I think he's done a tremendous job. The other thing that really caught my attention when Dabo first took the job, he took a lot less salary so his assistant coaches could make a lot more. Nobody does that. And then when they paid him the $50 million or whatever it was a few weeks ago, I actually texted him and said, you know what? You got paid in full because you took care of your assistant coaches in your first year, and now it's come full fruition. Am I excited about hosting them? Absolutely not. Nobody would want to play those suckers as they look at it. When I was, Bubba called and Dabo heard the rumor that I might come back, and he said, "Are you really going to go back to North Carolina?" And I said, "Only if I can appeal to the NCAA not to play you." And it didn't work.
Mack, when we saw you in the spring, you were very adamant that there was no easing into anything, that you guys were pushing them and needed to see how they'd respond then, as opposed to. Is there anything different you do in training camp? Does the mentality stay the same, or did you learn something from that and now you do something different when you're doing preseason?
No, they've done everything we've asked them to do, and we've pressed them really hard. Brian Hess has been really after them all summer, and I've been there some, but we can't watch them throw the ball and do all those things. The players, the strength coaches, when they're in the strength staff, all tell me they've done everything we've asked them to do since the day we showed up. The biggest difference now, and we've got to tell them this, is in the spring, we weren't really into who was playing and who wasn't playing, and there'll be some hard decisions now that have to be made. And then there's going to be some feelings hurt and pouting, and they're going to have to grow up and understand it, because we told some of the ones that have been around, if you don't do your job well in the spring, we're going to bring one of the young ones in and try him out and see if he's better than you are at the position. So earn it now. So that'll start happening here in a couple of weeks. So we'll have some that life's going to be a little tougher for them.
When you did the practice change to the morning, what was your thinking to do that?
Larry Fedora had changed his spring practice to early morning before I got there. We couldn't change it because the academic calendar was already done and they couldn't flip them back. So we went through the entire spring, and then we got to a point where we had to make a decision for fall for the academic calendar. Are we going to go early, or are we going to keep it like the traditional afternoon? So we had the players talk about it for 3 or 4 days in their meetings. We pitched them 3 different possibilities, afternoon, early morning, or mid-afternoon, and they were unanimous that they took the early morning. And they felt like it's better for study hall in the afternoons. We'll have our player meetings in the afternoons, and then they're off at night, and obviously have to go to bed early because they'll be in the building sometime at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Coach, when you talk about the season's opener here in Charlotte, Will Muschamp, one of your former assistants, your first game ever at North Carolina against South Carolina, your first game back against South Carolina. What are your thoughts on that game?
Well, number one, it's in Charlotte, which is such a key recruiting place for us that I'm excited about that. In the old days, when you played a neutral site game, only the whole home team could bring recruits. Now, both North Carolina and South Carolina can invite their recruits. So it'll be a huge day for recruiting, and I admire Will, and I pull for him. And so it's you never like coaching against your buddies, but that's the way it is. So you forget that when the kickoff starts. But it's an exciting game for us, and Charlotte's so important to us. We need to play well.
Coach, what have been the challenges coming back? Obviously, it seems like recruiting's going well, and there's a lot of things going well. What have been the difficulties the last 8 months?
Your first difficulty is to get the players to trust you, because they just lose their coach. They've had 2 tough seasons. And here comes this new guy in that's been out of coaching for 5 years. Some people question whether he's too old or should he be back, and you walk into a group of faces that have a void. So you got to get them to buy in. You got to communicate with them. Then the trust and respect has to build up. I think we've got all that. I really think we're in good shape there, and obviously all of us want to win all the games and have fun, do all the things that are common purpose. But now we've got to start making hard decisions. The facilities are better. We're not where we need to be and where we will be in a couple of more years, but when you all see the upgrades, they're really good. They did a great job in a short period of time, and that's really helped us with the players to show the commitment from the administration. Game day experience is much better, but we got to get people in the seats. We're selling more tickets. They got to show up. I hear I don't want to be out there, it's too hot. Well, all those players are out there and they got gear on, so I don't want to hear it. If you want to win, then you got to show up and help us. And that's important too. And then the last thing is that we've got to make sure that we have the right players on the field. When I talked to Coach Smith and Coach Guthridge about why they won a long time ago, and it was really interesting that both of them said PT, and I said, what does PT mean? They said playing time. So you've got to take the amount of snaps that Strobridge and Aaron Crawford are going to play compared to whoever their backups are, because we don't have great backups right now. We got to develop them. And then is that 15 plays that they rest them a game? Is it 25 plays? So how many plays can the backup play when he's rested and be as good or near as good as the starter when he's tired? And then when you start deciding playing time, you have some dissension on your team, and we haven't had any. So we're gonna start having that now.
Do you wear the ring all the time?
No, I only wear the ring. I wear it for TV. I wear it when I'm speaking, and I didn't know whether to wear it today or not. But I think it's a good sign to our players that we've done this and we know what we're doing. Excuse me. So they have to see it. It's big and it's gaudy. So, but I don't wear it any other time.
You guys play 96, 97. You have two of the best defenses in school history. What's it going to take to begin to get this defense back to playing at that level?
I think it's recruiting. We had great players. Yeah, the 2022 drafted. Yeah. It's just the 3 number 1 draft choices off that team, and I really like what I've seen that Jay Bateman has brought to us. I think he has got a defense that's deceptive enough that it's going to create havoc for some offensive lines that aren't as prepared for it. So it's going to be fun to watch him, and I like what he's done emotionally with the team. They like him. They bought into him. So it's been cool to see.
You guys are reigniting that rivalry with Wake Forest this year. How big is that? 1, for recruiting in the state, 2, just for your fans, and you're also the first major conference to do that non-con in that style. Should more schools look into that?
Yeah, it's a bonanza financially, because you don't have to travel very far, and you'll have a good crowd. So I think that's one reason that people do it. And Wake Forest, to me, I hate to see the traditional games broken up. I hate to see Oklahoma and Nebraska not playing, and Texas A&M. And when I was here, Wake Forest was a very important ball game for us every year. The other thing that's important is that we've got to start winning all the games in the state. How can you start talking about winning all the games till you can win the games in your state? And how can you recruit really well in your state till you beat all the teams in your state? So that makes Appalachian State, that makes Wake Forest, that makes Duke, that makes NC State. All of those are huge games for us.
When you were putting your staff together, what was it about Jay Bateman and what he did that made you say that's the right guy?
I was so lucky over the last 5 years to go see so many teams play. And I went up to Army and I spent 3 days. I spoke at their high school clinic, I spoke to their team, and I watched them practice. And then spoke to their staff. And I could tell then that Jay was special. And then I watched them against Oklahoma. They hold Oklahoma to 21 points with not having a player on the Army team that could play for Oklahoma. And then I called one of their games, some Military Bowl against San Diego State. So I got to watch them practice a couple of days and spend some more time with Jay. And then when you add the fact that he recruited for 15 years in the state, and he's from Virginia, he was just a perfect fit for us. So it was a no-brainer.
Coach, speaking of
1 second here, and I'll come back.
Coach Brown, talk about the last 5 years. What did you learn of being a coach the last 5 years away from the game?
I learned that not many coaches are having fun. They're miserable, and they're all worried about losing, and they're all worried about being paranoid, and they're all worried about being fired, and that's not right. You got to have some fun. It doesn't work unless you have fun. I learned so many different things about little things in practice people are doing differently, because I got to see a lot of spring practices. I learned a lot about schemes that are popular right now because I interviewed coaches every Friday night before their games, both sides. I got to I got to stay fresh in my mind about who the great young coaches are that are out there for coordinators' jobs, because I was around them all the time, and I was watching and listening and seeing 24 games every Saturday. I learned so much more about your all's job. Coaches don't know about your job, and it's interesting that you would say, well, they do too. They're around us every day. They don't. They've never done your job. So they don't know that you have to put something out there that people are going to read or people are going to watch. And I was in the same position. ESPN would tell me, take us behind the scenes. You got to tell me something I don't know. You got to say something, and if a coach was struggling, you got to tell the story, man. You got to tell the story, and a lot of those guys were my friends, and that's a difficult thing to do, but that's your job, and I've learned that now.
And you had to be a storyteller. So
you got to be a storyteller. Yeah. You all have really hard jobs, and you got to do it every day. That's the other thing. And then if somebody screws up, you got to be like me. You got to get on the phone and say, "What? It's 2:00 in the morning. What did he do?" And you're all saying, "2:00 in the morning. What did he do?" So that's just. But I also learned that you do the best you can do, and if you mess it up, say you messed it up, or you have consequences for your players. They make poor decisions. Only way for them to learn is to be punished and have consequences. So all that I'm better with. I'm going to enjoy you all. I'm going to enjoy the players. I'm going to enjoy the game, and I'm going to have a lot more fun this time than I did last time.
Coach, Sam Howell was a big get for you right off the bat from this area. What can he be long-term in this program, and will he have a shot to start that first game here?
The first thing is we have 3 really talented young quarterbacks, 2 redshirt freshmen, and Sam is a true freshman. And we've got to do a tremendous job of trying to figure all those pieces out between now and the South Carolina game. Who starts? Do you play 2? Which one's the best one to put the ball in the end zone all the time? Obviously, we think long-term Sam's really talented. He was accurate in the spring. He is a deceptive runner. He can run a lot better than people think he can. And he's a very accurate passer. So I really like him and think he's going to be a good player.
How important was it for you with your relationship with the players right away to get some tangible wins, like the players' lounge upgrade and that kind of thing?
I've learned it's the most important thing. Your word. You need to be able to come in and give them some things they don't have. And the first thing we always do is say, what do you want? What's wrong? We're going to play within the rules, but what's wrong? What do you want? Well, the food's bad. Tell me why the food's bad. Write it down. We gave them all pads, pencils. Tell me what's wrong with the food. We went to the food people and said, we've got to have good food. We're paying for it. What's wrong with it? And then I ate there every day for 2 months, 3 months, and I'd walk over to him and say, "This is dry. This is unacceptable. I'm not going to have it." The players would see me do that. Then we said the players' lounge. Why don't you go in the players' lounge? Well, there's nothing in there we like. So what do you want? Here, write it down. Tell us what you want. A Papa Shot. I want a sleep pod. What else? Write it down. We'll get it. So we got everything they wanted. Sally changed the carpet because the carpet looked old and had stains on it. And then we thought the locker room looked tired and old. We built it 22 years ago and it needed freshening. And then we felt like that the weight room was just too busy and it didn't have the weights that Brian Hess wanted because every strength coach got his own weights and his own thing. So we threw all those out, gave them to the Olympic sports, and he put in exactly what he wants. And we've got one of the coolest days on Monday. I should have mentioned that in here, but they haven't seen them. We've locked off the locker room and the weight room, and we've got all the windows boarded up and everything, and we're going to have a celebration on Monday, and we're going to let all of them walk through them and have a big party and a big dinner afterwards. So that should be a lot of fun. But they need that. They need to know that they're important. They need to know that there's change coming. And especially since the last 2 years haven't been what they want.
Has that need changed a lot since you took over Texas and you had to make when you first got to UNC? Just the need to give the players a place that they're happy to be comfortable with and where they want to be. Was that as much the case when you took over UNC the first time or in Texas?
It was, but I didn't know what I was doing the first time. I just came in and I was so young and trying to figure it out. When we got to Texas, it was the same thing. We were lucky that John Mackovic had just gotten a new renovation of facilities, and we were able to put paint on the walls and do that kind of stuff, but it was already in process. But I really feel like it's so important to them that you can come in and give them a better chance, give them more respect. And Coach Fedora did a great job of that indoor area and the practice area. Now, if you haven't seen it, it's amazing. And then we were able to add the field turf, which looks gorgeous. And then the two other things they're getting on Monday. It just shows the importance from the administration. Number one, it tells them that we're going to do what we tell them we're going to do. And number two, it shows the importance from the administration. And now we need the fans who are stepping up and buying a lot of tickets. We need them to show how important it is to them.
Aside from that stuff, what's the difference, maybe a greater challenge now taking over a Power 5 program in a situation you would seize in as opposed to previously? And certainly you had a chance to see other guys do it the last 5 years. What is the biggest challenge?
We have the best team in the country in Clemson in our league. And you want to win championships, and that's a tough standard right now. They're recruiting better than everybody else in the country. They're doing everything right. So what we've got to do is try to win the Coastal, and then whoever's got to go in there and try to beat the best team in the country, and that's our deal. The other thing, Aaron, I think is it's all about the fit at your school. People they're talking about the transfer portal. Why do kids transfer? Well, they didn't like your place. They didn't like your offense or defense. They didn't fit. So I've told our coaches, let's get people that fit. So, well, here's this guy in Montana. I said, he didn't even know where we are. He's a great player. He wants to come. He got no clue. He can't get here. And if you can't get a map and drive from Chapel Hill to Winston-Salem, Charlotte, and Greensboro, and Raleigh, you probably aren't a fit. You need to have had some fit and reason to like Chapel Hill.
Coach,
yes,
you just mentioned that Clemson is the best team in the country. Do you believe that there's a gap between Clemson and the rest of the ACC?
Yes, ma'am, without a question. I think there's a gap between probably after watching it 5 years that has been Ohio State, Georgia, Oklahoma, Alabama, and Clemson. And then some people think Michigan may jump in there and cloud the Ohio State thing this year. But right now we've got a group at the top that are looking down at everybody else. And there's some that may get in there, but I don't know. And as you look at it, they get exactly what they want in recruiting. I mean, it's going this way more than it's going this way.
Coach, you mentioned Appalachian State.
Yes.
You were Appalachian over in the 80s. Are there things you bring from that experience? You were strong there. Are there things you use or currently do?
Absolutely. We've got 5 guys that are working for us now that played for me. And all 5 of them say very little has changed. We still have simple rules that they got to go by. We're still going to be deathly honest with them and direct at all times, which sometimes they get taken back and it's hard for them to handle. And we're going to work them really, really hard in practice. And we're going to play the guys that know what to do and play the best and work the hardest. It's just that it's not that complicated. In recruiting, we've got a footprint from really D.C. to Jacksonville, Florida, but that's more like Virginia Beach to Atlanta. And we want people who can drive to the school if possible. And we will get stronger in that footprint the more games we win. And that's who we are. But like we said, we're going to sign the best players we can in the state first. And if there's an in-state and out-of-state player that are even, we're always going to go in-state. And then we're going to try to get great players out of state, or we wouldn't go out of state to do that.
Coach, talk a little bit about what your relationship with Coach Sweeney's like, and when he came to see your program at Texas, what kind of advice did he give?
Dabo and I have been great friends for a long time, and I think it started because I've known Woodrow McCorvey since he was the secondary coach in Pensacola, Florida, and I was at Southern Miss, and just love Woodrow. I mean, if I need something, if I need advice, I'm gonna call Woodrow McCorvey. Coach Stallings is a dear friend of mine. He's one of the best friends I've got, and they kind of took me and put me with Dabo. And when Dabo took the job, he came out to Texas with his whole staff and spent 3 or 4 days. And the 2 programs are run pretty much alike. There's not much difference. We will do the things Dabo's doing. And I thought what a credit to him that when he thought Kelly Bryant wasn't the guy, he told him. He could have waited another week and had a backup quarterback, and he loses 2 more quarterbacks. Maybe he doesn't win the national championship, but he was honest. He told him exactly what he thought, and it didn't matter what the timing was, and he moved on with it. So I don't like Dabo Swinney. I love Dabo Swinney. Wish we didn't have to play him, but I love him.
On that subject, sort of struck by the fact that you just kind of acknowledged that once the quarterback decision is made, you likely lose one or more of the guys that isn't the guy. Does that enter the calculus at all in your decision-making process?
Well, it does, and it can't. The problem is they're all so young, and 2 of them got hurt last year during the game. So if you pick a young one that struggles or a young one that gets hurt, and the other 2 leave, you're without. And one of the things that was a problem for us at the end at Texas is we got in quarterback trouble because of transfer. Got hurt, and all of a sudden you look up and you had 4, and now you got 2. So you've always got to have, when you think you got enough quarterbacks, get 1 more, because they're hard to keep. So all 3 kids have done great. The room's good. They're all nice. They all like each other. They're all talented. We've just got to figure out it, even early in the process. When I get back with Phil Longo, how do you do the snaps? You got 3. You're going to play 1. How do you cut it to 2? And usually when you've got 2, you can get 50% of the snaps with each group and be fine. But with 3, it's a little harder. So that's what we got to work out.
Mack, what's the strengths and weaknesses, in your opinion, of this team entering training camp?
The strength of this team right now would be running backs. To me, all 3 are really good. And you take Michael Carter so fast in space. Javonte Williams, I think, maybe a superstar. He's 220 pounds and could fly. And then you take Mr. Williams. He can do everything. He's special teams tough. He's the leader. He's the guy for everything we do. Offensive line to me has got to get tougher. Just their mentality. There's some talent there, but we've got to get tougher. Tight ends will be a strength. I think that they can run and play. Wide receiver can be. I don't think we're there yet. You got a few. Daz has been really good, but we got to catch balls. We've dropped too many balls in our past. And we've got to make sure that we get free in space, because people will bump us some and try to take that away. Defensive line is really good with the first group. There's no depth. We've got to develop depth, and that's such a key. Linebacker to me is all over the place a little bit. We got young guys that are talented, but nobody's really. We got Eugene Asante coming in there, but we haven't seen them all play yet. You got Chaz, that's Surratt, that's new, and a quarterback playing linebacker. You got a freshman with Quadri Jackson, and Gimmel's good. He's got to get stronger. And Dominic Ross is a really good pass rusher. Got to get better in space. And then in the secondary, I think we're going to be good. We just got to figure out who one of the corners is going to be. Patrice is playing really well. You've got the other safeties. I think we'll be fine with Jones and Woolfolk, and especially with Miles Dorn. But we got to find the other pieces there, and that's pieces that we haven't seen yet. And then you got a brand new kicking game. So, and I didn't even mention quarterback. We've talked about them a lot. But I think we have a chance. We got to do a great job coaching. This isn't on the players as much as it is us, I think. There's enough stuff there. We got to develop depth, and we got to put the ball in the right players' hands, and we got to call the right stuff on defense to help these kids.
As a coach, is that challenge of needing to really coach them up?
Yeah, it really does. We're not. We may not be better than anybody on our schedule, so we got to play good every week. That's what coaching is all about. That's our job. Our job is to help them.
Because of that, with a new staff and a new offense, how tough is it to hit the ground running with South Carolina in the first game as opposed to easing into it with Podunk State?
Well, it's South Carolina, then Miami, then Wake on the road, then App, who's got 19 starters back, and then Clemson. So I hadn't even looked past that. So I got that far and I stopped. I said I got enough problems without exciting myself to know what is past that.
So how do you handle that? I guess how do you do you have the type of team you think that can hit the ground running like that?
That's our job. It's our job. They haven't the last 2 years. We were brought in to get them more confident, and get them to be in positions to win more games. And that's our job. I fully expect that. That's when people say, what are your expectations? Our expectations are to win every game. And then they say, so you think you're going to beat Clemson? I said, I didn't say that, but we want to. And we're going to try to, and we're going to do everything within our power to. So I'm not going to sit here and say, God, we'd love to win 6. What an awful thing to love to win 6. That's half your game. So that's where I'm excited to see us put these guys in positions where they can play well. And that's what we want to do.
Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, but you get the job in 1998. Ricky Williams is playing pro baseball. How have you handled the situations over the course of your career of pro athletes and then also recruiting? Multi-sport athletes, but also recruiting multi-sport athletes?
What we have done, as long as a young guy can play in another sport, and as long as his academics are good and his acting right, he can play. And it doesn't take away from us. Like we've had guys play basketball, but they go through football season, go through the bowl game, go immediately to basketball, go immediately to track. So I don't mind them playing 2 sports. It keeps them busy and keeps them challenged as long as they're doing their academic stuff.
And then what about when you're recruiting high school kids? Do you look for that?
Yes. If they're good enough to be great at 2 or 3 sports, then they're pretty good. We had one, John.
I know I missed this, but is there an update on Camp Taylor?
No, it's new for me, it's new for us. I think what they've done, meaning our administration, our compliance, I think they have put in the waiver and the things that they feel like are important in the waiver, and then it's a wait and see. There's no, they haven't told us by next Wednesday, so we've got no timetable at all. So we're just kind of waiting to see. And with Bryce, we didn't do it. But we'll let you know when we know. It'll one way or the other.
And that was North Carolina head coach Mack Brown at ACC kickoff. And with that wraps up episode 9-2, or the full encompassing episode 9. Obviously, like I said at the beginning, there is a 9.1 or 9-1 with 4 other interviews. I wanted to just split it up. That way it wasn't an overwhelming episode with 9 different. I don't even think I would have had enough time to do it. But so that wraps it up. That is ACC kickoff. That's all the audio I got from it. Personally, obviously I could go get press conference audio, but I wanted to get the stuff in the breakout sessions more because you're able to ask more in-depth questions, get that personal face-to-face, where it's press conference questions are a little bit different than breakout questions sometimes. So I just wanted to get that stuff, get it to you. There's going to be articles coming out about some of it. Some already have. So stay tuned to eveningsportspage.com. Stay tuned to the Twitter page at the ESP_. Instagram and Facebook, the Evening Sports Page or Evening Sports Page. So go follow us, stick with us, go to iTunes, go to Spotify, go to iHeartRadio, subscribe, follow the podcast, Evening Sports Podcast. Not hard to find. We're one of a kind. You search Evening Sports, you're probably going to find us. You search Evening Sports Podcast, boom, there we are. Go follow, go subscribe, go review, go rate. We need all the help you can give. And a simple star rating and short review is a ton more help than you even could imagine or possibly think. So if you would, go do that. Go follow us on social media. Look, football season's about to get into full swing. Talking season is winding down just as soon as it started. And come August 2nd, the ball's going to hit that turf and, we're going to hit the ground running. So stay tuned for all the coverage of Clemson football this year. Some South Carolina coverage, some overall ACC and SEC coverage, and, of course, the later we get in the season, there's going to be Senior Bowl coverage, NFL Draft, all that good stuff. So stay tuned, and I'm going to bring you the best coverage I can for the Evening Sports Page. This is Austin Sylvie, signing off until next time.
I want my chips with the dip.